Okay, let's get this going. Hello, it's ready. Ooh. Sorry guys, very unstable here. At least that's me. So, is that clear enough? Why can't I get it clearer? Okay, 275.5. Right, I'm trying this one-handed, well, two-handed at the moment, but this is a little mini haul that I had done at the grocery stores yesterday. And what I've got here are some colored peppers. I have a little lime. I have some cilantro, which I didn't put immediately into water yesterday when I came home. I was so tired. I forgot, it's wilting, but I'm trying to refresh it here in some water. Where's the water? Down there to revive it. I've got zucchini, avocados, little cherry tomatoes, and then I went to a specialty store to get this. I've got almond flour, of course, Bob's Red Mill. Not sponsored, but you are going to for sure see a lot of Bob over here. Some xanthan gum, which I believe is a thickener. I've never used it again, so I'm curious how that's going to work. And some golden flax seeds. Typically, when I brew up something for the family, I use the regular, they're more brownish flax seeds that I either grind up in small quantities in a little coffee grinder I have. Or I guess with this one, because I'm going to be making flaxseed meal, I'm going to grind that up in a Vitamix grain container. So I'll show you that when I get to doing that. But yeah, I'm branching out and trying a whole brand new recipe, and I'll be sharing that with you later this week. All right, on to the next. Hi everyone, I'm sitting in a new spot today. Have to disregard. I'll give you a little dining room tour. Well, dining room, half living room. It's sort of like a combo room for us. Tour another day. Because I think this video is going to end up being long enough. But ignore the dusty little display cabinet behind me. At least for now. I'm going to be sharing soon with you at the end of this video. Where am I supposed to be looking? Right there, I believe. A bit of my parents' story, how they came to Canada and what their life was like before they came here and then afterwards. And I think that's going to help set the stage for my story that I plan on sharing tomorrow, because I think it wouldn't be fair for me to share my experiences and what has contributed so much to my dysthymia and depression unless we can kind of put it into the context of my parents' life experiences as well. Because, of course, whatever experiences I have is impacting my family, my husband, and my children on a daily basis. And, of course, their experiences impacted them, and then, therefore, how they raised me. So I would like that to be in perspective before I share my story so that it's in context. Okay, sorry for thinking so much. It's really cool to go through some of these pictures. I've already chosen a bunch to share with you. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to be sorting these into some sort of an order. And then I'm going to take individual pictures of them and upload that to my computer. And I'm going to try for the first time to set them up, I guess, as scenes in OBS, Open Broadcasting Systems, to then have running in the background as I film myself when I share my family story. So I hope that's going to work. If it doesn't come out too well, be patient with me. This is all new and I'm learning it as we go. So yeah, that's it for the moment, and I will catch you as soon as I've done the uploading, and I'll be right back to share their story. Bye. Hi guys, it's me again. I'm back. Feels kind of funny saying hi each and every time, but it's been several hours now since I've seen you. I have been struggling mightily with a wonky cable at the back of my monitor where it just keeps turning on, turning off, turning on, turning off. Finally fixed that. And I've spent also quite a bit of time trying to figure out on OBS how to layer scenes and sources to get this next little part to work. And it's quite late in the evening over here, and I want to get this finished and loaded before it's December 2nd. So I've got the overhead lighting, well, some of it off. The only thing on is the grow lamp over here. So I know the lighting isn't great, but the one thing I did notice when I take a look down at the screen here is that kind of gets rid of my, my extra chin or chins. So I hope we'll work with this. I didn't rehearse this part at all, and I'm going to be looking down at my screen sometimes to move through the different scenes. Hopefully I'm going to get a little bit more fluid with that as I learn how to work it, but I know you'll be patient with me. In the background, I've got a map of Europe because that's where my parents came from. My dad came from Poland. My mom came from Germany. I'm going to start back a little bit ahead of that, and hopefully it won't take too long. So, okay, let me move the image to the forefront so you can see. Yay, I did it. Okay. And that gentleman on the left-hand side of the picture is my maternal grandfather, Max. And this is a picture of him in 1914, over 100 years ago, at the start of World War I, and he was in the cavalry. In the next picture coming up, this is 1917, and this is my maternal grandmother, Olga. And after my grandfather returned from the war, I'm not 100% sure of the timing because I don't remember these stories too much from my mom. We discussed them so long ago. She's been gone quite a while now. And the treat that I'm going to show you on Thursday has some information about my family, but it's all in German, and I haven't worked it all out yet. So I'm not sure if this took place after or before the war. I suspect afterwards. And my grandfather went to university, and there he studied architecture, and he became quite successful at it. So here he is. My mom came from a very wealthy family. They were wealthy to begin with, and my grandfather was very successful. Here he is in a picture with his own chauffeur. This is, I believe, taken well before the start of World War II. I'm not exactly sure of the timing. And this is in front of one of the very many developments that he was in charge of designing and overseeing the construction for. This, what you see now, is an aerial view of that particular construction project where you saw him just a moment ago. I'm sharing this with you just to give you a sense of what my mother came from when she emigrated from Europe to Canada. This is my mom as a little girl sitting with her mother in their salon, their living room, whatever they would have called it in those days. And this is some of the furnishings that my grandfather had commissioned. He was an architect. He was also an artist. He did have in 1 year, and I'm still trying to find out exactly when it was, a sculpture of his that was featured and won a prize at some World's Fair. He also designed all of this furniture, had it crafted to his specifications. And this is what their home looked like. I believe it was 3 stories. They had servants, very luxurious lifestyle. In this picture, my mom is on the left-hand side. She was a very happy-go-lucky young girl. She was, as you can see here, pretty skinny at the time. She was very active in sports with horse riding, and I think she was also really interested in swimming and was trying to compete on a higher and higher level. She really had a dream of becoming an Olympic swimmer one day, and that never came to pass. Now, this here is the only photo of my dad that I have at his youngest age. This is at the start of World War I in 1939. I believe he was 14 at the time, that his family was gathered up one very early morning by some Nazi soldiers, and they were told to take whatever they could, put into a bag and carry with them. And they spent the rest of the war in a type of a labor camp. I believe it was located in Poland, but very close to the western border of Poland, abutting Germany. And to me, it's really something every time I see this Nazi insignia on this document. But this is the photo of my dad that I have at his youngest. They had no family photos when they left their home. He grew up in a family where his father was like a carpenter. He created furnishings, and they also had sort of like a gentleman's farm, and his father was not exactly the mayor, but sort of like on town council of the town where they were. So they weren't particularly wealthy, but they were quite comfortable. This is a picture of my dad, I believe towards the close of World War II. He's standing on the left-hand side. He's the youngest of the family, and on the right of him is his next up, his older brother Adam, who they're not sure. He died one day when, God forbid, he was run over by a train. They're not sure if it was intentional on his part because he was very depressed after the war. They had no home to go back to, or if it was truly an accident. We won't know. This is my dad several years after the end of World War II. He and his family were placed into sort of like I guess like a refugee camp. And because he had a lot of mechanical skills that he had learned in this labor camp that he was in, and he had driven a farm tractor previously, he was given a job as a driver for the medical corps of the what was then known as the UNRWA, which was UNRA, the United Nations Refugee Agency, I believe it was called. And so this is him at about the age of 22 or so. And this is the only picture that I have of the camp where he and his family were. At this point, when they finally did escape from the advancing Russian front at the end of the war, I believe they went into a British refugee camp. I'm not sure. I don't think it was US. I think it was British. And he lived there with his mom and his older brother, his sister, who had unfortunately been raped during the war and had a child as a result of that, and his brother Adam until he was killed or run over by the train. So there was no home to go back to. My dad's father had died on the road while they were trying to, as I said, get out of Poland and move towards the Allied front as the Russians were approaching from the east. He had been very, very ill, and so he passed away. And my father's older brother suddenly found himself the head of the family. He eventually went to move to Scotland, and he there joined the Royal Merchant Marines, became a captain, and he took responsibility for taking care of my father's mother. My father's sister was able to get a visa eventually to go to the US, where she decided she wanted to settle, and my dad decided he wanted to come to Canada. There was nothing to go back to in Europe. So my mom and father met somehow because my dad, I think, was trading cigarettes on some sort of a black market to get other goods for some of the officers, many of the soldiers at the camp where he was. And he met my mother's mom at this black market where she was trading goods to get cigarettes and other items that were very hard to get a hold of at the end of the war. And she took a shine to him and invited him to come to their home sometimes. And that's how my mom met my dad, and a relationship grew out of that. I'm showing you here what my mom looked like. It's a very, very faint picture. It's been faded by time. But based on documents from my mother coming into Canada with my father, end of 1949, early 1950, after their civil marriage. They had a religious marriage here in Montreal 10 years later, but they were married civilly in Germany. My mom was my height, 5'3", and this is just a little bit before they left to come to Canada. She weighed all of 110 pounds. She had never, ever had a weight problem until she came to Canada, and she was extremely severely depressed. I think that's all I have for the pictures. Oh, here's just showing you my mom. She's already looking pretty sad over here and kind of run down. But this is where I got her height and her weight from. So my parents married, much to the chagrin of my grandfather. He was very concerned that my mom and dad would not make a good long-term fit with the kind of upbringing my mother had, the kind of trauma that my father and his family had suffered. But it was love for them, and they decided they were going to do their best to make it work. My dad had no interest at all in staying in Europe after the war. He had seen too much trauma and sadness and misery, and he wanted to have a fresh start. My grandfather was very against their leaving Germany. My mom was an only child, just like I am. But she did anyway, and they came to Canada. I believe they arrived in April or May of 1950 in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and from there they had to spend, I think it was 2 to 4 weeks in sort of like an internment camp where they were quarantined to check that they were in good health before they moved on. And my father had originally asked that they be stationed and posted in Ottawa. He wanted to go to the capital of Canada. But his and my mom's paperwork came across a senator's desk in Ottawa on this committee to approve the refugees coming in. And he saw my dad's credentials from working with the officers on the medical corps, and he decided he wanted my mom and dad to work for him. In order for my dad to get a visa to come to Canada, he and my mother both had to agree to do 1 year's worth of domestic work on behalf of the Canadian government in order to come. So they came to the area where I am once again living just a few blocks away. And they worked in domestic service for a year for this senator in his beautiful mansion here nearby. So at that point, my mom was still in sort of the surroundings she was used to physically in terms of the home she was in. But she suddenly found herself being one of the servants instead of having the servants taking care of her. And while she loved my father very, very much, it was, I think, within the first 2 years that they were here that she gained almost 100 pounds. She was quite unhappy. My father had already taught himself German, and he had learned English while being in Germany. My mother knew a little bit of English, but coming here to Canada with no real education on my dad's part, he was pulled out of school. I think he was 14 at the time. So he never finished officially his education there. It was very difficult for my dad to find employment after they did their 1 year of domestic service. So I'm going to stop the story here, and it gives you sort of like an overview of how my parents came to Canada, what it was like for them beforehand, and a little bit of what it was like when they just arrived over here. There were financial struggles. They were both away from their family. My mother no longer had a good relationship with her dad. He was quite furious about her disobeying him and leaving and throwing her future, as he thought, out the window. And she found herself alone over here. No friends, no money, and no security in terms of the future. And she ate her feelings, which is something that I learned to do as well too. I'm not blaming her for that, but we are influenced by the environment we grow up in. So I'm sharing this with you today because my intent is tomorrow, for the second day of Vlogmas, to finally share my story. And as I mentioned earlier in today's video, I really wanted to share a little bit with you what my parents' experiences were like, so I can put it into context when I share my story, because I think it helps to explain a lot of what took place and what should have taken place and didn't. So I don't want to leave you on a sadder note. I want to say something nice and encouraging. So I am very grateful once again that you are here. I am really happy and excited that I have pulled through, and despite the obstacles with recording today, I am getting this done. I'm looking forward tomorrow to sharing my story. Well, sort of looking forward to it. I'm kind of looking forward to uploading, and I'm going to share a little bit more than my story too. I'm going to share a little mini haul with you and some plans for crafts that I've got coming up. But it'll be nice to get this out there and let go of it, and go forward from there. I hope all of you are doing well, that you're having a great start to this very eventful month, that your family and friends are doing well too, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much for joining me. It really does mean so very, very much to me. Bless you all. Good night. Ooh, I will learn to edit this stuff out. I promise. I'll get there. Bye.